But the thing that hit me, it hit me, was that pivotal moment when Mason realized that people actually thought that he could have hurt his best friend, Benny, and even some people that he loved.
Right.
I think the way that you set it up so that he had no idea throughout that almost the whole book, but that us as readers did, is just brilliant. It's the way you did that. It's so brilliant. And I guess I'm wondering, what was it that made you decide to write it that way?
Yeah. Well, first, thank you. That's, a really high paid compliment. And, it worked for you just as I hoped it would, but, all along I wasn't sure I was pulling that off. I think that's, we're never completely sure, I think. And, I think that part of that is that this book surprised me a little bit in that it became a little bit of a study in how we tell a story. Because when you think about it, Mason was the narrator, so he talks directly to you, the reader. But then you also hear what he says to others, and it lands on you a little bit that, he's leaving out, he's not insisting, he's leaving something out here. Then when he speaks to the dragon and things become more fluent for him, that is yet a third way that we are hearing from him. And so that was kind of interesting. I wanted for him to be, truthful, innocent, and a little naive, in that why would anybody think the worst of anybody? Because he, especially, of him, yes. But what about the others in the story too? He never really thought the worst of any of those people, because it's just not in his nature. So he applied like the same thing to himself, I think. So there was all of that, and I wanted that moment to rip through him the way that you say it ripped through you, Tammy, and so I was glad that worked. And then I really felt a huge responsibility that I needed to have him very well sewn back together again emotionally by the ending, because I think that any time someone has been under suspicion, whether they later are absolved or not, I think that can really leave a mark on a person for life. So, I hoped it would be enough for him that, they thought that, and now it's over, and I've got people back again, and there've been apologies, and I hoped each piece would do that for him, and having Benny's dad come and say, "You sweet, sweet kid," I know that part, when I wrote that part, made me cry, but yeah, I felt like I was walking on eggshells once I got past that point of the book where he made that realization, where, is it me? Is it me? It's me. All along, this is what they've been thinking. And that, what a dreadful feeling. And it was kind of along the lines of that. If you tell a kid they're a bad kid, they're going to be a bad kid. If you take someone who has committed a small crime and then don't defend them well, and you put them in prison, they're going to feel like that's who they are. So I had all of that on my mind, and there was almost an urgency for me as a writer to get this done, get this fixed now. You tore a hole in this kid now, sew it back together again. So those were some of the things that, that moment it had consequences for the writer.
Oh, but you handled it in such a beautiful way. And that, right, it had been leading up to that, and those moments where he would describe the way people were looking at him, like that sad to see you look.
Right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
He was almost there, but he wasn't there. And then I think too, the comment that was Andy, right? Benny's dad, who said, "I forgot who you are."
Yes. Yeah.
Right? That was huge, too, I think, in repairing that, right?
When we face tragedies, or when something like that happens, that was that thing about the fabric of a community, what we what we fill in, what we begin to believe, what our poor brains go through over something like that, and the balance of, what's really real here, or, and the number of times that we did miss something about a person, that might be not good. There've been
Right.
plenty of surprises like that too in our lives, I'm sure. But
Right.
yeah. Oh, it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And oh yeah, I mean, and even the second time I read it, even I knew it was coming, and it still
And it
just
still, yeah, still got to you.
just
Yeah.
really got to me.
Oh,
But in a good way. So
good.
yeah. So, and of course, we've already alluded a little bit to the fact that um some of the themes, right? Some of the qualities that Mason has, right? His resilience, his kindness, his truthfulness, um, his, and I've noticed that in other characters in your books as well.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering too, like, why are those qualities, right? Why are those the ones you choose? Why are they so important to you that your characters exhibit those?
That was such a great question that you asked about, about that. I think that one simple way to think of it is that I've got to create a character that the reader is willing to engage with. So they have to like them, or like something about them, or at least sense intrigue. Be intrigued by them. I think too that's very interesting to point out that all of those traits, truthfulness, kindness, and resilience, also can make a character vulnerable in different ways. When you're boldly honest, everybody knows what you're thinking. When you can be counted on to be kind, you can be taken advantage of. When you are resilient, you maybe are a person who continually throws yourself up at the wrong thing, just because you can bounce back. So does a resilient person perhaps make the same mistake again several times in regard to maybe trusting someone or something like that? These are all good things, and yet, they have another side to them. So I think too, my stories are very character driven. I mean, I really kind of have character before plot. I work harder on plot, I think. So those elements, I need to put just putting that reader also on the side of the main character. And that's really important too. So I think that's probably why those things emerge. We're all capable of those things. Are we going to put our best self forward? Which of these characters is going to put their best self forward? So.
Yeah. I think too that maybe, it speaks a little bit to the kind of person that you are, Leslie, right?
Well, that's probably true. Yeah.
I mean, you are a very,
I'd like, I'd like to think so.
yeah. I mean, I think you come across absolutely as a very warm, kind person. And
thank you, Tammy. That's very dear.
Of course. I know that when you wrote this book, you never could have envisioned, right, the situation that we'd be in today. But
right.
Absolutely, some of the themes in this book are very relevant to, I think, especially what kids are feeling. So how do you feel about the connections to what kids might be experiencing during this COVID-19 experience?
It's hard. I'm not right inside the heads of those kids. I can't, I am 60 years old and don't have anything to compare this to. They're going through something I never went through. And I know that they must, miss their friends and everything. But I think that if we think of truthfulness, kindness, and resilience, those are all really important things to be able to pull up in ourselves right now. For one thing, we need the truthfulness of science. In order for us to protect ourselves the best way possible from this. And so I think truthfulness is very important right now, and I hope that we should be requiring that of ourselves, really. I think that kindness too, we should be requiring. If we have something our neighbor needs, like a roll of toilet paper or a bag of flour, we should be safely sharing those things, and I know mine, we have dropped things over the fence here, a few times. So kindness is really important. I think too, if you're feeling cooped up and at home, you have to pull up some extra kindness for your own family members and your own siblings. You have to do it, and resilience, I think too, I think keeping the faith that we're going to bounce back from this in some way, keeping the faith that really things still are all right and that we can find other things to do and entertain ourselves during this time period when we can't necessarily be in school. There's actually this opportunity to choose anything you've ever wanted to know about. And since we have computers and we have the internet and we have YouTube and, and other places to learn something new, there are Skillshare websites, things like that. And so in a way, we have to look at this as an opportunity. And to me, that's in a form of resilience. I used to try to finish all my school homework so I could sit down and draw. So I'm hoping maybe some kids are doing art, picking up maybe things that we used to do more of, like knitting or embroidery or, I don't know what else people are doing, but, find those ways at home to not just let, and it shouldn't be all about video. I mean, the best video right now is a video that's going to, give you a hands-on experience, I think, rather than video games and things like that. I hope that, you're limiting you're self-limiting if you're not being limited by the adults in your household.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a good thing to do. That does kind of rot you, I think, in a lot of ways. So,
I agree.
But I know we've been chain watching a few things, and we're guilty too, but we sort of have set hours for it, and then you got to finish. Yeah, no. Well, in a way, it is a good time for those kind of things. And I mean, there are great stories to immerse yourself in on film, on video, on television streaming and everything like that. So I think those are great things. But rounding it out, I do find it a hard thing to answer. I think it will be an interesting question for you to ask in the middle of a book discussion with those readers. It's a great time to be reading, and yet our eyes grow weary of that too. So we have to change things up for ourselves now, and get creative. I know of a little girl who has a sign on her door in her bedroom in her house in Brooklyn, and it says knock first or die, it says on it. And she said, I don't want you in there. And we were laughing because she was working on a birthday gift for her mom inside her room. And when they would knock on the door, she would say, "Working in here." Wow, as a writer, why didn't I learn that skill a long time ago? And this is what my friend was saying about, her granddaughter. So I think, there are those things too. I think, probably there is a bit of a loss of a sense of privacy in every household, but,
Sure.
I think we should respect that for each other too, if we can. I think the adults need to probably respect the children's privacy and vice versa too. You'll all get that, you all get fed about that. So,
right.
Oh boy. Yeah.
I can imagine Mason going through something like this and saying what he said several times in your book: worse things can happen.
Worse things can happen. Yeah. And if we're lucky enough to be healthy in this, then we have to remember to be grateful about that,
Yeah. Yeah.
Practicing gratitude never hurts on any day. And during this, it has helped a lot. I am heartbroken that I can't get to my 88-year-old parents very often, but I'm really grateful that they have phones and, and that, that I can reach them that way, and that the facility that they're living in has done a really great job of protecting the residents. They're not in a nursing home, but they're in a senior village. And so far, knock on wood, there have been no cases. So lucky.
Yeah, that is scary. And I know, we're all experiencing things like that, and not able to see the people we love and worried about them. And it's I know that a lot of kids are wondering, and as am I, if this is the end of Mason's story. Will we ever hear from Mason again, you think?